Thank you for reminding me, whoever did that. So, what is prayer? So, prayer is a meeting place with Source. It's a meeting place in which you become relationally connected to your higher power. And what do I mean by that? Well, when we set aside time to build relationship, it's because we've created a safe space to connect. And if we look at prayer as this place in which we connect to Source, we can create an opportunity to realize that this is an intimate space of connection. And that place of prayer is something that can allow us to understand that we're not doing anything wrong. We're not doing, we're not following any kind of protocol. We're just simply showing up. So as we show up to this place of prayer, we learn how to create an opportunity to reflect that nature that is inside of us. All of us have a place of deep connection spiritually within us. This place of connection is incorruptible by this world. It's a place that is so holy and so sacred that it's set aside for your meeting with your higher power. That place has an integrity that is so beautiful that the more that we practice this relational aspect of ourselves, the more that we can create an intimate connection to the higher power and ultimately manifest the gifts in our lives, the fruits, the displacement of the energy that no longer serves us. We can really live an abundant life through this relational concept of prayer. So when I say the fruits of prayer, what I mean is that the idea of a vineyard or the idea of a farm giving you a harvest. This is the idea of going into this meeting place. Whenever you set aside this time in your life, you are going to have an opportunity to create abundance. So, one of the things that I've found very important in navigating prayer is that prayer is a place of deep, intimate connection to your higher power. I don't like the idea of higher power because that creates this linear separation between the authentic space inside of you. I love the idea of what our Jewish relatives call God, which is Hashem, or the one without a name, like the nameless one. You know, this idea that God is so holy that we really are challenged to create an architecture or a language around that sacredness. And this space that I'm exploring now, the language creates a limitation. So what I'm sharing is that there is a place inside of all of us that is incorruptible by our behaviors, by the world, by any influence. And as we allow ourselves to step into this place, one of the deep tools that we can use is accessing our emotional density. So my relationship with my daughter is something that I hold very sacred. And I can tell you that we have these conversations that are real deep conversations where both of us are talking about what's going on our lives. And sometimes we're getting into the emotional density of suffering. And I really believe that as we intimately connect with Source, as we connect with the Creator, as we allow ourselves to be in the midst of the creative force of the universe is hungry for that which causes us separation, that which causes us to go into a place of disconnect from love. And as we allow ourselves to give that process over in joyous connection and gratitude, we find in turn the displacement of the energies that hinder the power of the manifestation of love and gratitude and the abundant brilliance of effortless manifestation in our lives. So, if you think about your emotions in two states, flow and in density, the density is the place of resistance. And emotional density is those experiences that you fortified in your mind through continual relationship to them. You may have a trauma from your childhood. You may have an experience that happened in a breakup. You may have uh, the loss of a family member that has caused you grief. As you fortify the emotional density of that experience, that in turn creates a separational opportunity for you to limit your access to source energy. So we want to be able to harness that power by going into the emotional density and giving it over to creator with gratitude. How does this work? Well, in a daily practice, you may have a relationship in your life that causes you to feel this idea of emotional density. Let's say, for instance, there's someone, I had a client this week, and his daughter is dealing with mental health concerns, and the daughter's boyfriend is abusive. So I shared with him, when this person comes into your field, harness the power of the feelings that are associated with that relationship and give that over to the creator with gratitude. Because the continual space that that individual is taking in your mind is limiting your access to the quantum field. The hindrance is around that metaphysical architecture of the relationship. The spiritual architecture of that individual has created a barrier between you and source. So, how do we allocate the density of that suffering to creator? It's with gratitude. So, let's say, for instance, that the person's name is Sam, that's causing the issue of separation to manifest. Every time that that person comes in my mind, I am going to diligently hold that relationship captive to an optimal state of mental clarity. I'm going to say, Creator, thank you for bringing Sam into my field. Thank you for allowing for Sam to fill my heart with anger and frustration. Thank you for the pain that I feel in my heart when I think of Sam. Thank you that in this place of realizing that Sam is my life, I feel lonely. I feel separated from you, Creator. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to feel this way. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, why in the world would I thank Creator for a relationship that is causing me these feelings? Well, the reality is that gratitude is a great alchemist. Gratitude changes the frequency of the energy of the trauma, it changes the frequency of the energy of separation, and it allows for you to step into the quantum. Once you have allowed that energy to be harnessed, you're now back into the place of flow. And flow is where consciousness creates. Flow is where energy is in a state in which it's looking for manifestation. This is how the quantum field of prayer works, relatives. This is how we can begin to harness the power of our prayer. So, as we begin to realize that we're harnessing the emotional density of traumatic experiences and relationships that cause these emotions to come forward, we want to give ourselves a complete opportunity to have an experiential spiritual process. The experience of your spirituality is through a limitless connection to the utilization of prayerful alchemy. This discipline that I'm talking about of gratitude is a discipline that will bring clarity and open up the prayer field, the manifestation field, the quantum realm. And in that space, you will have the shift that you're yearning for in your call to manifest those gifts, those dreams, those relationships. You will begin to see the beauty of the manifestation in your life and experience it. Celebratory experience of spirituality is a catalyst for creating the relational channel in which the energy of creator fills your heart and displaces that which burdens you. You, as a spiritual being, have access to that overflowing presence in which your ancestors, the holy ones, the angels, the mountains, the springs, the universe is crying in rejoiced song because of you activating yourself into that conscious realm. You see, when you are experiencing the power of creative source energy, the celebration displaces that which no longer serves that frequency, and you have the experience of love. Oh, how beautiful that is. So, I want to get into some components of activating that realm of enhanced experiential spirituality. So, ritual and ceremony are the tools that create the vehicle for you rushing, I mean, light speed to the place of relational connection to creator. Drumming, singing, dancing, these are the ceremonial aspects that will create a vehicle of supercharging your relationship with that which is love. When you design spiritual ritual and ceremony in an intimate way, you are creating and unlocking within your DNA the spiritual powers to restore your connection to source and to bring about the gift of manifestation. You see, ritual and ceremony, prayer, all of these things create a genetic change in you. And that is the epigenetic response to our deep spiritual process of awakening that which is limitless inside of us. How you create authentic ritual and ceremony in your life is truly up to you. But the place of agreement is the place of power. Where two or three are gathered, you're fortifying that place of energetic manifestation, of spiritual manifestation, and you're creating and harnessing a powerful tool for transformation and joy. I had an opportunity to create an improvisational dance with my friend Bob, my friend Gary, and my friend Dean. And we did this man dance. And I'll tell you what, my heart was so filled with joy during this experience. I was completely held by God. Like I felt the presence of the Holy Spirit, I felt the presence of Creator. And you know what? I was overwhelmed with joy. And it was silly. It was really a silly kind of thing. But you know what? It was also deep, authentic, and intimate because we had to be in a place of vulnerability with one another in order to create that. We had to say to ourselves, you know what? We're going to do this together and we're going to have it happen and it's going to be something cool. And because of that, it was authentic, it was real, it was ceremony, and it was prayer. And I just loved it. You know, it really meant a lot to me to be able to connect with my brothers like that. And this is something that we can have. We can have ceremony, we can have ritual, we can have spirituality, we can dance, we can sing, we can play our drums. This is the authentic ability, the authentic tools that have given communities the opportunity to call on the rain, to call on the snow, to have people healed. It's through these tools that we can alchemize the densest energies and cause great transformation. So here's some really powerful tools for daily life. And I want to really, if you have never done a fast before, I would encourage you to begin a fast, a season of fasting. I've been able to do a 28-day juice fast where I only drank juice for 28 days. I've done multiple 3-day water fasts. And I can tell you that fasting is one of the deepest ways of connecting to spirituality. It will harness a level of clarity in your life. It will bring forward a power inside of you that is so sensitive to the world that you will begin to attune yourself to the source. You will begin to attune yourself to love, and you will have a transformation in your life that's so worthy of experiencing. I would encourage you, if you've never done a fast, take a 1 day fast, only drink water and see what happens. If you could make it 3 days, there's something very powerful about that. I think each day represents a part of the Trinity, the feminine, the masculine, and the child. And that 3 day water fast is something that really changes things. If there's a breakthrough that you're looking for, before you go and take ayahuasca or DMT or mushrooms or any of these other plant medicines, try fasting and prayer. I promise you things will shift in your life. Daily prayer is something that I encourage myself to do. I'm not going to say that I'm perfect at it, but I usually begin each day and end each day with at least a thank you, Creator, for this day. Those are things that you can do daily. And as you begin to practice it, it will become more um, instinctual. Dancing your prayers. Get into a trance state where you start to live out the vehicle of transformation inside of you. Drum your prayers. What's a rhythmic mantra that you can focus yourself on? Is there a prayer inside of your mind that you see for yourself? Do you see yourself with a new business relationship? Do you see yourself with a new friendship? Do you see yourself with a new partner? Do you see yourself with a new opportunity in your life? How can you envision that and then play it on the drum? As you create the vision, so the provision will happen. Where there's vision, provision follows. Realize that, my relatives. So, building an altar is another powerful way of creating a reflection upon your spiritual practice. Building an altar to the aspects within yourself, building an altar to a manifestation that you're wanting in your life. When you set aside an intentional meeting place in your home, that altar will create a physical shift inside of your world. You know, I once did a Shodo class, and Shodo is Japanese calligraphy. And these Shodo masters will harness the power of their consciousness to create a symbol. Those symbols are sold to Japanese corporations, sometimes for $250,000, because that one symbol will create a shift inside of an entire company. This is the idea of an altar. Create a space inside of your home that you create integrity, energetic fortification, and you put your faith in. When you do that and you ask the Creator, you ask the Holy Spirit to bless it, it will create an opportunity for you to see the miracle. Another aspect of continual prayer throughout the day, when you drink water, think a good thought about that water. When you eat your food, think a good thought about your food. When you take your medicines and your supplements, say a good word to that medicine or that supplement. Use your conscious connection in a mindful way to create a vehicle for transformation. Beautiful pictures, sculpture, poetry, painting, all ways of expressing your prayer. Writing is another powerful vehicle for transformation and prayer. I love to journal my thoughts. I love to write. I sometimes post my writing, sometimes I don't, but it's a way of connecting a channel and opening your heart to the Creator. There's a reason why all the mountains in Phoenix all have prayers written on them. They call them petroglyphs. This is that journaling that our ancestors have done since the dawn of cultural identity. So, one of the things that I wanted to share is that intimacy, sexuality can be a powerful form of prayer when done with an intimate expression inside of ourselves. When we allow our intimacy to be a prayerful space, that creates a bond and a union that is so powerful. It can do things for us that are really amazing. And I wanted to share that because sometimes we think of sexuality or these ideas as something outside of our spiritual process. Me and Monica have been able to experience burning sage, opening up our hearts to a prayer, and allowing that intimacy to be reflected inside of our physical connection. And it's something that's very beautiful if you allow yourself to open up that space. You know, one of the things that I feel is very important is to walk with integrity. Myself, I really strive to keep behaviors like manipulation, lying, violence, all of these ideas and concepts that are really, far from my relationship with Creator. I strive to do my best to not steal from anyone, not manipulate people, not lie to people. I try to do these things to create integrity in my life. One of the things that's important for me is my relationships. And I strive to create as much integrity as I can in my relationships. And it's important for you to understand that the integrity of your prayer is affected by those behaviors. So I wanted to share that much here with everybody. I hope that you got something from this presentation on prayer. I wanted to open it up for some questions here before we close out the space. If anybody has any questions on these concepts, or maybe something just didn't fit well with you and you need me to elaborate on it, I would love to share.
Hey, Andrew, I got a question.
Okay.
Okay, hey, what about speaking in tongues? How does that fall into that?
Oh
Or
my
is that
goodness, Bob, what a great question. So I am a person that is gifted with light language or speaking in tongues. And for me, whenever there is a prayer that comes forward in that language, I know that it's from source. I know it's from God, because there's a feeling of intimate connection to the prayer. Um, I also have an interpretation every time that I pray like that. There's a feeling that comes forward in that space. Um, Many communities have different ways of determining that. In the Christian world, they call it speaking in tongues. In the spiritual community, they call it a light language. I've also heard it called an angelic language. So, regardless of what you call that experience, know that there is a way that you can tune yourself into an ancestral prayerful language that is really directly connected to the Creator. Um, I sing and chant in an angelic language, and Bob has witnessed that before in our sound healings. And it really brings forward a powerful transformation for people. People come up to me and they say, "Oh, when you were praying, what language was that in?" They told me this exactly. And they'll say things to me, and I'll say, "Yeah, that's exactly what I felt too." Bob, did you have something else come forward for you?
no? Because that's something that because well, because I kind of do that. I had I try to do it a lot because I
Yes.
know I've got it, but it's there were certain people that kind of frowned on it a lot, so it's something that I kind of had to work through a lot. But I was just curious, Andrew, what's your thoughts on that stuff?
I did that my first time speaking in tongues. I was at a drum circle and I had no idea what was going on. I
Yeah.
was listening to the drums, and all of a sudden, this song came out of me in a different language. And I started singing this song, and it just felt like I knew the words to it. And it was really powerful. And then years went by of having this experience in drum circles, and I didn't even know the terminology speaking in tongues. I just knew that this spiritual thing was happening that was helping me. And I remember reading in the Bible about that, but I thought, oh, that's what's happening too. And ever since then, I've had that gift. I believe that that gift is a gift of impartation as well, because there was a man that came up to me and hugged me when I was in that drum circle, and I felt like the presence of love that really filled my heart. And I think that he was gifted in some way, and he gave me that impartation. Um, yeah, I think that there's something about the touching when a person is blessed with that gift and they touch you and they pray for you to receive that gift. I believe that that's how that gift is, how the epigenetic response of that spiritual gift is activated inside of us. I believe that that activates our DNA, which in turn activates centers inside of our body and creates that spiritual gift. I hope that makes sense, Bob,
Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot, Andrew.
for sure. Anybody else have any questions on that aspect of prayer? Bob, I'm so grateful you brought that up, because somehow that escaped me in this presentation. So I need to really put that in there for next time I do this. This is my first time doing this presentation, by the way. So I hope you all got something from it. You were my guinea pigs. I've mentored people for years in prayer. In fact, I mentored a guy every day for 9 months. I met with him and prayed with him every single night for 9 months straight, which was a really cool. I mean, we might have missed a couple nights there, but there was very few that we missed. A guy named Mark Allister or Aster from Tucson, actually, believe it or not. Any other questions? Anything I can help to bring clarity to?
Well, I just have a comment about that. I've been in the presence of people that have had that light language, and even my father, when he was making his transition, he began to speak that, and it was. I mean, it was definitely a language. It was, and what I've found so fascinating when I've been in the presence of that, it's like I recognized it. It's like I intuitively understand, or like I've heard that before. So I that's just been my experience with it, and it's a fascinating topic, and I'm glad that Bob brought it up, and thanks for sharing your experience. But it's powerful. It's very powerful.
I pray like that in the sweat lodge all the time. Like when I'm really in a deep place in the sweat lodge praying, that
Mhm.
prayer comes through for me. And usually the guys that are sitting next to me, because we're usually crammed in there, like they'll begin to respond like they know what I'm praying about.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that what you're saying is a common phenomenon to those that are in tune to
Mhm.
that connection. I believe that it's like God is speaking to the people that are around through you to meet their needs spiritually. It's a really beautiful experience. I've grieved, I have some friends of mine that lost a family member, a son, to I think it was just a tragic death. And the anniversary of their son's death, they came to one of my sound healing sessions. And I went over to the area where they were, and the creator was singing this song of grief. And I had no idea why I was singing that song of grief. I mean, it was like I get teary eyed talking about it because it was such a deep level of grief that was coming through me. And afterwards, she came up to me and she said, it was really hard for us to come, but we're really grateful that we did. This is the anniversary of my son's passing. And I was like, whoa. And two or three people came up to me and they said they felt like it was grief that was coming through in that song. So I think that the Holy Spirit, the Creator, was using me in that moment to help them channel some of that feeling, and to really help them with the burden, which I was totally open to doing. It was very powerful for me to be in my gift like that. So, yeah, yes. Anybody else have any questions before we close up? We're getting close to the hour here. So, did y'all like that presentation? Was that a good? Oh, Jordan, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask any tips on like you mentioned the altar there. I'm curious about like creating the altar and then also maybe like recreating and maintaining it and shifting it and um yeah, I mean like naturally connecting to the intuitional aspect of creation for that, but do you have any general tips or structure or practices around that?
Yeah, so traditionally, when I'm doing a talking circle with natives, they'll put all kinds of things on the altar. Like they'll put their watches, they'll put a picture of a family member, their wallets. I've seen them put their cell phones on the altar. I think that what's important to realize is that you're doing it with intention. So, whatever you put on your altar, you've done it not just because it looks cool. but because you have some sort of intuitive knowing that that substance that you're putting there is because of a direct need that you're wanting to meet. So let's say, for lack of a better idea, you're wanting to manifest a financial blessing in your life. Well, you might want to put a representation of something on there that's in tune with that. We also use sacred stones. So we'll put different stones on our altar to help create an environment that reminds us of that. And every time we walk by it, we'll acknowledge that. Maybe not every time, but continually through the day, acknowledge why those aspects of your altar are there.
Thank you.
For sure. I'm curious, Shane, you haven't said much this time. Is there anything you'd like to offer?
No, nothing really come to mind, honestly. I enjoyed the presentation, incorporating all the aspects of life. I know prayer is powerful, and I remember. I guess I am going to share some stuff. I remember your. I was speaking to my partner about your Facebook lives and your prayers that you used to do. I've been off social media for like I think 5 or 6 years now, but that was one of the things that I did enjoy. Was it? So I know the power of your prayer and connection. So appreciate the presentation.
Thank you, brother. And during the music for the or 6 Feet Apart Hearts United, when we were doing COVID, we used to open with a call to the directions, which is another thing I could have put in there. Oh goodness. Thanks, Shane. You added that to my presentation for next time. So the call to the directions is another powerful tool for prayer. So I could do a whole presentation on doing a call to the directions as well, which I may do, which is a really great way for opening up a sacred space. All right, relatives. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close this out here in a prayer. And thank you so much, everyone. I have really enjoyed tonight. This was so good for me. I just, man, I really love seeing your faces on here. You know that you guys are really, I'm just so grateful. And Jordan, it was really nice to have you. Thank you for showing up. We're here every Wednesday, 6 o'clock to 7. So would encourage you to be a part of the community. We usually have some other folks that are here. Something must have came up. I'm not sure. But anyway, we'll go ahead and close our circle up here with a prayer and just invite you here to feel the earth underneath you and remind yourself you're supported, connecting to sacred Mama Gaia, expanding into the universe here, opening our hearts up to this place. Father, Mother, Creator, Source, we thank you for this night. We thank you for our spiritual connection in our community. We thank you for the questions, and we thank you for the realization that this topic of prayer is so infinite, so many things that we can include to help us understand the vastness of what it means to have prayer. And we thank you for guiding us in prayer and opening our hearts. We thank you for healing, transformation. And I put a special prayer out there for Sherry Barr, Monica's sister-in-law. And I pray that you would help the surgeons and the people that are going in to help her. And also, I thank you for her brother, Bruce, as well, and peace in his heart. And we just release these things to you now, knowing that you've worked in the seen and unseen parts. Beauty above, beauty below, beauty beside, beauty in front, beauty behind, beauty within. I am, we are made beautiful again. Aho, blessings, relatives. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you guys. And I will see you next week, if not sooner. Blessings.